I'm Howard Lovey of the Alliance of Independent Authors and book editor at howardlovey.com, and you're listening to Inspirational Indie Authors. Every episode, I interview an ally member to find out what inspires them and what makes them an inspiration to other authors. My guest this episode is Joe Walters. He's the founder and editor-in-chief of Independent Book Review, a platform devoted entirely to indie and self-published books. He spent years working in book marketing for small presses. He recently published The Truth About Book Reviews, a practical guide for indie authors on making sense of reviews and using them well. I'll let Joe Walters tell his story.
Hey, I'm Joe Walters. I'm the publisher of Independent Book Review, a celebration of indie books. So basically, I run a website where we review a whole bunch of indie books, self-published books, indie press books. We've reviewed 2,000 plus since 2018. And this year, I've tried to put my expertise to the test and published my own book, The Truth About Book Reviews. That's been a really fun venture for me. I used to be a marketer at small presses, and I saw how difficult it was really to get coverage for indie books. And so when I left those jobs because I couldn't stay in Portland, Oregon anymore, I decided to start my own company, and I wanted to make it easier on indie authors to get coverage. So that's where Independent Book Review was born. And so my book, I basically take us through what I did as an indie press marketer, how I prepared the books for submission before we went out, and then how I succeeded getting different kinds. So different media reviews, trade reviews, blurbs, and customer reviews. So basically the whole book is about how to get those reviews and then how to use them once you do get them.
Yeah, well, reviews are an important part of the publishing process, obviously, and an important part of an author's life. You know, we crave feedback, and it's especially hard for indie books to kind of cut through the noise. But before we go into that, let's start at the beginning. Tell me, where did you grow up, and was reading and writing always something that was part of your life?
So I grew up right outside of Philadelphia, and I would rather be outside playing sports than reading or writing for the most part. I read some Matt Christopher for sure, read as many basketball books as I could find, but then I just kind of disappeared into my own activities, and it wasn't until high school that I kind of realized that I liked my English teacher, and I saw a possibility there. I knew I had to do something, and I decided to go into high school English teaching. That's when I started taking books a little bit more seriously, taking my time with them. And once I got to college, I majored in secondary education English. And before I started taking my education classes, I took an uncredited writing class. My advisor asked me if I was good at writing when my freshman year in college. And as an insecure guy, I just said no. And so they put me in this uncredited class where I didn't know that I could string some sentences together. And the job of the whole class was just to write a book. And so that kind of just stirred me onto the path and kind of ignited my love of it, because I wrote a pretty unsuccessful book about my basketball career, and then started writing every day after I wrote that book. I just kind of tested myself and tried getting better at this thing I hadn't gotten better at. So I started writing, I started reading books about writing, and I started reading fiction, and a ton of it. And so that's basically where I went from there. I started writing, I fell in love with it. And then instead of teaching, I did other stuff. I tried to spend my time writing and reading.
What did you do for a career, or was that your career? You eventually found work as a marketer for indie presses, but did that come later?
Yeah. So I was a substitute teacher for about 3 years, but all I ever really did was sit behind a desk, read, write, and hand out worksheets. And I knew my heart wasn't in it. And so I decided to move. We moved from Pennsylvania up to Rhode Island because I knew I didn't want to teach anymore. And so I would just take any job that I could take so I could spend my free time writing. And so I ended up a server at P.F. Chang's in Rhode Island and spent my nights serving chicken lettuce wraps and my days writing in the Providence Athenaeum. And then after Rhode Island, we had no ties there, really. Me and my eventual wife. So we moved to Portland, Oregon, and I served food there and I wrote there. And that's where I found a small press, Inkwater Press, hiring just outside of Portland, Oregon. And so I put away my apron and got a job as a marketer.
Well, you should always be nice to your server because they're either actors in training or writers in training, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me about your work as a marketer for several indie presses. How did you get into that side of the industry?
Yeah, so I wanted to be an editor at a publishing house. That was my dream job. I thought of myself as like Max Perkins at a big publishing house, and I knew it was kind of difficult to get. And so I just kept my eye on Indeed and Craigslist for publishing jobs, and all I found was one, Inkwater Press, a marketing director, and I did not know what marketing was. And so I had to Google it real quick, go into my interview. I got the job. And so I learned on my way. They published about 75 books a year. And I was the marketing director for people who I hadn't figured out how to sell their books yet. I just knew that I wanted to do it for them because I knew how much writing meant to me. And I knew it probably meant a whole lot to them if they found readers. And so I was in charge of everything for them. Really, I had to get reviews for them. I had to write descriptions for them. I had to talk them through interview queries. I had to talk them through how to do interviews. And so I really just learned a ton on my feet at that job. And it was an in-person job just outside of Portland, Oregon. So I woke up every day, 7 a.m. to about 3 p.m. was taking calls from authors and pitching reviewers and doing all sorts of marketing work. But I couldn't stay in Portland, Oregon anymore. I was running out of money and it was way too far from home. So me and my wife traveled back home, and I knew I didn't want to leave publishing. And so I moved back home into her grandpop's house, and I found remote work for 2 different publishers, Sunbury Press, which was also based out of Pennsylvania, where I would be a marketer for them, and Paper Raven Books, where I did book review and metadata. So I targeted customer reviews for Paper Raven Books and then did their keyword and category research in my free time, and then did Sunbury Press in the other time. And then after that, whatever time of day that was, I'd be reviewing books for Independent Book Review and kind of building our platform while I was doing those other jobs. And eventually, Independent Book Review got so big that I got to only work for them. So that's where I am now.
Oh, okay. So tell me about why you decided to launch it while you were, I guess, trying to get these authors some attention.
Yeah. So the main reason was I wanted to stay in the industry and I didn't know how. I didn't want to quit my job. I loved it so much. I loved being able to be in publishing. And all I knew was that we needed at the press guaranteed reviews. We needed ways to get reviews, even for the books that were hard to sell. And so I saw that some review platforms offered paid guaranteed reviews that they would post only on their platforms, but we could use them as blurbs on book covers. We could use them as blurbs on Amazon's editorial review section, on graphics. We had so many ways to use these reviews to get sales in the future that I wanted to make sure that we got them. And so I just knew that I could do a good job in this way. There were paid services out there who were focusing only on writers, trying to get those people in. And I wanted to be a platform that focused on readers, that got them sales. And I would read books very carefully, and I would give them my time and effort and care, and then eventually hire people who gave them their time and effort and care to make sure that we did a good job for them. And so here we are 8 years later, I guess.
Now, are you a paid review service?
Yeah, so we do paid reviews and free reviews. You have the option to guarantee it in a certain amount of time, or you can submit for the chance of a free review.
I see. Okay. Yeah. As I said before, I was former executive editor at Forward Reviews, and there were separate services. There was the magazine, which was a free review, and then Clarion Reviews were the paid reviews. Do you have any, I guess, pushback from some writers over the idea of paid reviews?
Yeah, it's mostly from misunderstanding, though. And it was a little bit earlier on that I got it more often, that they heard from Facebook groups that you're never supposed to pay for reviews. And that information is partially right. You shouldn't be paying for customer reviews, but paying for blurbs and media reviews is just another way to advertise, and it is just another way to guarantee something in a field where you can't guarantee very much. As indie authors, you'll find out pretty quickly how difficult it is to place your book in major outlets. You're fighting with giants. You are trying to get notoriety with other people's names saying your book is doing a good job, but you're sending 200 pitches and only 4 of them are answering. But it's still possible to get those reviews, to learn from the whole process if you're able to pay for it. If you have it in your budget to pay and guarantee a review, then you can learn about your publishing process in a way that's just not available to you if you are only paying, or if you are only submitting for free over and over again. You might be curious why it's not working for you. And if you don't get the reviews telling you why it's not working, then you might just be fumbling around in the dark for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. So are they always honest reviews, or what if a reviewer doesn't like the book?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, that's part of our job. We have to be speaking to readers. So in order to gain their trust, we need to write honest reviews. One of my things, of course, as a writer, is to make sure that we see the good in every book, though, too. We don't have to lie and say that this book is amazing when it is not amazing. We can say that the world building is impressive, though, if the world building is impressive, followed by the criticism that it deserves. I mean, we need to be honest. We need to share with our readers, gain their trust so they buy books from us, because we get affiliate income. So if we create a strong reader base with our honest reviews and at the same time help authors get blurbs, then we're doing 2 things at once. And so honesty is really, really important to me, but also so is kindness. My reviewer document, the one I send to everyone, is that my motto is that we're always honest, but never mean. I think it's a really, really important piece of this. We need constructive criticism in our writing groups, and I think we need them in our book reviews too. I'm a writer at heart, and so I'm always looking out for them while also running a reader-focused platform.
That's funny. That's what I also tell my clients. I'm also a book editor, and I use those exact words, actually. I'm always honest, but never mean.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we should patent that.
Yeah, I think we would. Yep. Yeah, we're teammates.
So you've been doing this for a little while now, and the world of book marketing and reviews has probably changed a lot, and probably more so just in the last couple of years with the advent of AI. Do you feel like you're competing with machines now?
Yeah. The thing we're running into the most with AI is that authors are more skeptical than ever that reviews are written by AI. And that just, it does suck. I hate that you have to even have that consideration, that we didn't read the full book, that we didn't give it the care that it deserves. Because sometimes you get reviews in, and if it stays kind of surface level for too long, then it can feel like you read the description and asked AI to read it and provide generic feedback on it. And that is just not what we are about. So that's in my reviewer document as well. It's super important that these people read every word on every page up until the very end. So that's where we run into the AI thing the most, is that authors are concerned there. And hey, if you end up getting a review from us and you think we stayed too surface level and you're nervous that it could have been written by AI, just tell me. I'm going to get you a review right away. It hurts my feelings. I don't want you to think that we didn't read this book, because I want people to read mine. So that's what I run into the most. We do get submissions that use AI. So we get some books that are written by AI. And that's a tighter thing to walk, because we're still focused on readers here. And so if a book is written by AI, or written partially by AI, majorly by AI, it's just about if the book is good to read, I don't think AI is good enough yet to really impress us in that way. We're not going to say this book didn't work because it was probably written by AI. We don't even know that. We will point the issues out. AI probably made some mistakes if they wrote it. We're not going to claim that it was written by AI, but we are going to tell you that this thing just didn't work in the ways that it didn't work. Or, hey, if it's the best written AI book of all time, our reviewers probably won't even know it. And so they'll talk to readers and say, this is a pretty darn good book. I'd be really
I don't
surprised.
think we're there yet. Yeah.
I don't think we're there. Yeah. I'd be
Yeah,
surprised.
I've developed over time an AI detector that where I can't put my finger on how or why I know it was written by AI. It just seems so, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about why and how you started to write your book, The Truth About Book Reviews.
Yeah. I always wanted to publish my fiction book first, my novel first, and then it took 11 years. So now we're 11 years later and I don't have that novel out yet. And so we got to last year and I just didn't have my book out yet. And I knew that I had book marketing experience and a perspective that other people didn't have as a book review publisher, but also as a marketer in the past. I just have information and I had been previously writing blogs on these things. I was in 2023, I was pumping out a book marketing series on Independent Book Review, which you can still find, that I really loved spending the time doing that. I used pictures, I made jokes, I just kind of fell in love with the idea of talking people through these things in a conversational way. It was a fun way to spend my time, and I thought I was being helpful to people. And then 2024 hit, and Google started using AI as their response, their immediate response, as opposed to blogs answering people's queries and questions. And so I just saw our numbers go down on those posts. And I knew that we weren't getting the same readers that we were before because Google was just answering it for them. And so instead of just kind of stopping writing those blogs, I just compiled them into a book, updated them, of course, did too much research, spent way too much time writing this thing, but finally was able to put it together and come out with the book in July. And so that's where we are.
So it's called The Truth About Book Reviews, meaning there are probably a lot of misconceptions about them. You know, can you tell me, you know, maybe some tips about what not to do with book reviews?
Sure. The main one is that you don't use them. Book reviews as publicity are beneficial for sure. You get a review and you put it on someone else's, or they put it on their platform and they share it with their readers. And then maybe you get a few follows, maybe you get a few book sales from it. If it's in a huge platform, maybe that spikes things for you. However, not every book review is going to do that for you. Most of them will not. And so the most important thing is for you to use it after you've gotten it. So take a quote from that review, if it is from a notable platform, and put it on your Amazon editorial review section. Create a graphic for it. Post it on not only social media, but share it with your newsletter followers. You can put a piece of it on your cover if it's the best quote that you've gotten and it's from a notable person or place. There's so many ways that you can use reviews. I've filled my book with it. So if you're just curious a little bit, trust me, I've got answers in there for you.
You have sample pitch letters and practical steps. You know, is this through sort of trial and error, you know what works because you've been on both sides of the equation?
That's exactly it. Yeah. I mean, I thought I was doing a pretty good job when I was pitching everyone, but I really didn't know for sure. Like I was getting conversions. I was getting people to say yes for our books, but it wasn't until I really started receiving hundreds, thousands of review pitches that I started to see what elevated some books above other books. For example, subject lines. Oh my gosh. I really just did not appreciate subject lines the way that I do now. When I was pitching back in the day, I'd use something generic: review request, title of book, author name. And that was it. Very kind of cold. It included information, sure. And sometimes people asked for that. But once people started putting hooks, taglines, and major accolades in their subject lines, I was thinking about saying yes to those people before I even opened the email. And then once I saw the cover, then I'm in. So I realized what was most important, how important the cover is, how important the subject line is if the platform is open to those subject lines. Sometimes they ask for something specific. And that was the biggest clue to me for what is most important. And then inside the pitch letter, I'd always been a big fan of personalization, at least some personalization. I worked for publishers who before me were sending out mass emails for reviews, which saved a ton of time. And I understand why they were doing it, but there was no personalization and the numbers weren't high. And so I just asked if I could spend a little bit more time to personalize the first paragraph of it. Pretty much every pitch letter for the most important platforms, for the most important bloggers, reviewers, YouTubers, And I saw the numbers go up pretty quickly. So I really know that these people want to be seen for what they're doing, especially on the smaller scale. If you want customer reviews, if you want bloggers, if you want YouTubers, they want to be seen. And so if you see them, tell them how you see them, why you see them, what they're doing that is impressing you, but in a genuine way. AI is getting, unfortunately, good at those. I get a lot of emails from generic personalization. Like, I see what you're doing at Independent Book Review, but then they're trying to sell me on this list of 100 people that they're trying to get reviews on, or they're trying to make you pay for customer reviews, which is a scam. And so you have to be human when you're pitching, and you're pitching to another human. You need to sound real. You need to be real, and have a good book while you're at it.
That's also important to have a good book. Now, what about, a lot of authors dream about some influencer on TikTok or book, Instagram, discovering them. Is there any special way to get an influencer to pay attention to what you're doing?
Yeah. So if you're hoping that they're going to find you, it's a few years down the line for sure. So you're going to have to find them first. And it's not easy, but creating some sort of personal relationship with these people is really helpful. So Instagram in particular, if you find this person, they have 50,000 followers, they do post book reviews in your genre, perfect. You have found a person that you might possibly get someone to review your book. Follow them first. Take your time. Give them months of time, like their posts, maybe comment on their posts. Don't say a thing about your book for a long time. And on your profile, start making that thing professional looking as well. Don't only be pitching your book, be a human on there, and maybe even start doing things for them too. So sharing posts, sure. Do they have books? Have you considered reviewing their books? So it's kind of a give and take a little bit. Get them to notice you in some way, in some non-pushy way. And if they eventually follow you, then you are one step closer, because now your Instagram DM isn't going to their message request. It's going directly in their primary inbox. So that makes a big, big difference, to be able to create a little relationship first and then move forward with a pitch. And that pitch also cannot sound like an email. It is much different. It needs to be personal. It needs to be shorter, and it needs to be non-pushy too. So take your time, biggest piece of it. Figure out what your strongest hook is and why that influencer's audience would be interested in your book, not necessarily why other readers are. Be very, very specific. Recognize who their people are and how your book speaks to their people, and then send that pitch. And I'd probably recommend not sending the book right away. Don't send a PDF, just send the pitch. If you have maybe a link to your website, that could be helpful. If you have just a book cover, if you have a picture of your book, something small that makes them interested in the book, along with the hook, like a press release or a press page, something like that. Give them just a little bit to show that not only is your cover cool, but influencer B said something nice about your book. And so influencer A, this person you're pitching, could be interested in yours.
That sounds like an awful lot of work. I'm getting exhausted just thinking about this. But it sounds like it's all part of you knowing your genre and knowing who the influencers are practically while you're writing the book.
Yeah. And it is a ton of work. I unfortunately say it a lot in my book. It takes time. It takes real time that you could be spending. You could be spending time writing instead of pitching these people. But it's a slow game. I mean, it is kind of like chipping at the ice a little bit. Over time, you have a writing career. You do not only have this one book. You cannot, you can. If you only want to write and publish one book, sure, go for it. But keep on writing, because over time, if you get somebody to review book 2, and then the next time you have book 3 out, you have a better chance of getting that person who reviewed book 2 to review book 3 as well, as long as they liked your book. So it just takes time, and it's okay not to spend all of it marketing, because you can spend all of it marketing. There are enough things to do to spend your whole career doing it. So take your time, breathe, keep writing, but also spend the time that you have available to market to. That includes reviewers and includes other things too.
You said, I think in one of your websites, you spend a lot of time reading indie books by Kindle Lite. What keeps you energized about indie publishing, and where do you see your own work going?
Oh, yeah. I read a ton of books. A lot of it is from Independent Book Review. I'm not reviewing all of these books anymore. I used to, but now I take a look kind of to separate the starred reviews from the rest of the pack. So I read a lot of those books. Whenever a reviewer submits their review and says, whoa, this thing is amazing, it should be considered for a star, then I go into it and I read through it and try to figure out if we should give it the final company star or not. So I read a lot of those. And then I also at night, I want to be doing other things, but I am tired. And so all I do really from 8 o'clock when my kids go to sleep until 10 o'clock, I'm just reading a book. And I feel no real, sure, there's a difference, but it's not in quality between indie books and big five books. You can absolutely find the best book you've ever read as someone who published it by themselves. They could have gotten help from an editor. They could have gotten plenty of beta readers. These people do a ton of work, and it shows even in a field where there are other books where that work isn't there. So some indie books don't do that, and you can read it and you can find that out. And so I believe that if you give them the time, you can find those stellar ones. Because I read big five books and they are not as good as indie books. I've read plenty of them. It is about these gatekeepers. It is about how they think something is going to sell, how they are going to put money into it and make sure it gets into bookstores in ways that indie authors just don't have the access to. Yeah. But it doesn't mean quality. And so I spend time reading there. I am proud to publish my nonfiction book as an indie, as a self-published book. But for my novel, whenever it comes out, I need feedback there. So I'm looking for small presses. I'm looking for indie presses to help me get to the place where I want to get it there. And so I think it's kind of important to dabble, to make sure other people are reading it, make sure other people are giving you feedback and figuring out how your book can be the best it can be. And there's room for both.
That was going to be my next question. You have your own novel in your desk drawer, or your virtual desk drawer. Do you have a timeline on that?
Oh, man. What is the timeline? Whenever it's good and done, I started it in 2015, and it was one thing, and then it turned into a different thing in 2018. I wrote that 4 times and realized 2 years ago that it's not the right thing. And so I have to completely revamp it. And it's been revamped twice now. And so now we're in 2025. I should be finishing a draft in January if I stick to this writing schedule.
Right. Well, now that you've said it on the podcast, you have to finish it.
Okay, sure. My mom's been telling me the same thing. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about the important subject of getting book reviews and how to do it and your own publication and book. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Bye, Joe.
Yep. Yeah.
You've been listening to Inspirational Indie Authors. I'm Howard Lovey, Content and Communications Manager at the Alliance of Independent Authors and book editor at howardlovey.com. If you are a member of Ally and would like to be considered for the show, please write to me at howard@allianceindependentauthors.org and tell me what inspires you and how you can inspire other authors. As always, find more author advice, tips, and tools at our Self-Publishing Advice Center, selfpublishingadvice.org. And if you haven't already, we invite you to join our organization and become a self-publishing ally. You can do that at allianceindependentauthors.org.